Welcome back. Come together. I'm here with my guest, Mitch Axelrod, and my co-host, Tom Gauker. And we're going to talk a little bit about an experience that Mitch had very recently, actually last night, when he spent some time and he met up with Sean Lennon. So, Mitch, can you tell us about what happened, what went down with Sean? What was he like? And talk a little
Yeah,
bit about the occasion, please.
sure. We were very privileged to be invited to a one-to-one Power to the People event in New York City on October 7th. And when I talk about these events, it's not that we're the privileged ones. We never take any of these opportunities for granted. And we've been invited to so many, and we thank them profusely because it's an opportunity for us to be a conduit to the fans. It's for others that are not located in New York City, that don't have a podcast, that are just fans. So we don't, we're fans first. So we were invited to this one, and Sean was there along with Bob Gruen, the photographer, Gary Von Syak, who is the bass player in Elephant's Memory, and
Hmm.
Simon Hilton, who works tirelessly with Sean and his team to produce all these box sets. So we got we got to hear first. We got to see a bunch of remixed clips from the one-to-one concert, which is coming out next year. They confirmed it. It was in the press release originally. That's going to come out next year. The concert just looks spectacular, and I've never been a fan of that concert. Probably because of the mixes, but it just sounds spectacular. It looks spectacular. There's a lot of little things I noticed, and I did talk to Sean about this after, and I'll tell you about it. But little things that were not seen before because the footage was so blurry and muddy and crappily mixed. Because you got the live in New York City in 1986, and
Yeah.
ugh. So it never really turned me on, so to speak, the concert. But then we got to hear some audio from the box, and that we were in a Dolby screening room, so you have to take that into consideration. My house is not, my wife's not going to let me set up a Dolby screening room in my house. I think my neighbors would kill me. But we were in a specific theater, and it was amazing sounding. It really made me want to go back, and we have the box, so it made me want to go back and really revisit everything because I have always hated sometime in New York City.
Yeah.
I just have. It's just never been something that
Me
I
too.
would play. And
Me
I got to
too.
tell you, the I'm still not going to go back and like make it a priority for myself. I'm not. But the mixes on the new box, and again, it's now called New York City instead of sometime in New York City,
Yeah.
because they made some omissions, and that's their choice. Understandable or not understandable, whichever. It's not. They don't care. It's gonna, this is the way it is. But I will tell you, the mixes like Angela, which I've never really enjoyed, sounded amazing, and New York City, which I've always enjoyed the song, sounded just incredible. So we had time there, and then there was a moderated discussion with Simon, Gary, and Bob. I thought a little bit of a missed opportunity there too. They weren't taking questions because I thought I had some questions for all three of them.
Hmm.
I got to ask them after on a one-on-one, but I thought maybe some of the questions would have been good for the general audience. There were a lot of press people, a lot of podcasters, a lot of great people there. But some of the people are not hardcore Beatle fans, so they don't know a lot of the history, and I think they would have benefited from some of the questions all of us would have asked, not just me, obviously. So
Hmm.
that was a missed opportunity. But then I did get some time with Sean a couple of times. At first, it was just a photo op, but I did ask him. I didn't realize it was controversial. I didn't bring up the woman question because it wasn't appropriate at the time. It really wasn't. And sometimes you have to read the room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the panel discussion, when Bob Gruen brought up the song itself, not that it was omitted, but just the song itself, it sort of made the room uncomfortable. So I didn't want to go there.
Mm.
But on the box set, on the previous box set, he took out the sax of One Day at a Time. On this box set, he takes out the sax of Sunday Bloody Sunday, and he
Mm.
also took out the flute on Luck of the Irish. Now,
Wow.
you know, in my opinion, again, Tom, here we go. My opinion, you don't know. Sean doesn't know what his dad wanted or not wanted. He wasn't born at the time when this box or when these songs came out. So, unless Yoko did talk to him about it, I understand why they took out the woman song. I do. I still think by taking it out, you've actually caused it to have more attention to it by omitting it. Because if you
Mm.
would have just left it in and just not talked about it, I
Mm.
think it wouldn't have offended money. It's part of the album. It's history.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did ask him though, in a very cheeky way. It wasn't like a serious question. When after we took the picture, I said, "Look, can I just ask you something?" And he said, because I didn't know I'd have more time with him. And he said, "Sure." And I said, "Do you have a beef with woodwind instruments at the moment?" And and he laughed. I said, "Look, I'm just busting on you." And he goes, "I know." He said, "But it is controversial." He
Yeah.
said, "Look, I take out the sax. I bring it up when I bring it up, and I take it out when I feel it's not necessary." And you have to honor what he said. I mean,
Mm.
to me, Luck of the Irish sounds different without the flute.
Sure.
Sunday Bloody Sunday, I could the video because they showed the video that's now currently on YouTube. Very powerful video, by the way. But look, I understand it. I as a hardcore fan, look for the sax,
Yeah.
or listen for the sax. But it wasn't that, it wasn't that noticed for Sunday Bloody Sunday. But Luck of the Irish, the flute is what opens up the song.
Well,
So
sure. Sure.
if you want to call it, don't call it the ultimate mix. Call it reimagined. Play on the word imagine and call it the
Mm.
reimagined mixes. And
Yeah.
because no one's going to count this Luck of the Irish or Sunday Bloody Sunday or as the ultimate mix. Everybody's going to go back and choose whatever the mix they want.
Mm.
So
So,
you see, you're bringing up a very, very interesting point
uh
because,
oh,
no, seriously, because let's face it, when John did this with Elephant's Memory, and they did the recording and everything, this is what John wanted. And
yes,
he wanted, when he did sometime in New York City, he was completely involved with it. This was his recording. This was
yes,
one of his albums, okay? So if
I
he wants a
agree.
saxophone, if he wants a flute in it, then that's the way it's going to be. All right? So now, unfortunately, it's out of his control. And
He's not around.
I'd like to know, John, what do you think about all this? In other words, people are taking, it's the same thing with the remixes, of Beatles songs that were so perfect with George Martin. And then, I heard a conversation earlier with you and Tom about, with Old Brown Shoe, what happened to the piano, right?
Yeah.
It's the same argument that I have. And I've been talking with Tom about this for years now. When you have something that's done at a specific time, and especially with something that John did himself, and now he's obviously gone, unfortunately, and then someone else is getting their hands on these things, and they're doing things that, hey, if John was here, right? I'm just wondering if you might say, hey, bugger off, man, I want the sax in. It's a very, very interesting point and a very, very important point as far as I'm concerned, is people can't leave things alone. Oh, we can make it better, or we can do another mix, so we'll do another remix, we'll do another remaster, the remaster to the remix. Good God Almighty. I mean, you had the four
Well,
Beatles at Abbey Road with George Martin. with the best situation could possibly be to create these masterpieces. Anyhow,
The
I
one
get
thing I will say, there's
I get a little wound up with this.
no. And
Yeah,
listen, you're not the only one. This box is very controversial. Look, we could deal with the sax on being taken out on one day at a time. All right, but this whole box, because of the omission of that song, which I understand, it's a word we don't use, and so
no,
I
no.
get it. But
Excuse me, Mitch.
yeah,
But John, when he wrote that song,
understood.
he he loved that song,
He
and
and he explained it on the
because
Dick Cavett show.
and the Mike
because
Douglas show.
Yeah.
because he was making, in his opinion, a very, very important statement.
Okay. Let me
You know,
just address that,
absolutely,
if you don't
absolutely. Now,
mind.
I know about the N word. I know all
Yeah.
about that stuff.
Okay.
But John, when he wrote that song and when he put it on the first original recording of it, he wanted it on there, and he meant what he said because he felt that that was true. That some women were treated like the of the world.
Right.
That's all. You know.
Let me give you or at least my opinion on a bigger picture. All right. John Lennon has been gone for 45 years almost now. Okay.
Yes.
He's
Yes.
gone longer than he lived.
Yes.
John Lennon, whether we like it or not, is sort of becoming irrelevant. And that's a arguable point. Hear me
No.
out. Hear me
I
out.
agree. I agree.
Okay.
Hear me out.
I'll hear you out.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's irrelevant. I'm just saying he only had a finite amount of albums. Not like
Yes.
Paul, who has, 30, and then Ringo now with
Right.
30 or 5.
Right.
He only had a certain amount of albums.
Right.
He's gone for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's irrelevant, but he's not as in the zeitgeist, so to speak, as the others are. And George, for that matter, may be in that same boat, so to speak.
Right.
So the thing is, you don't want to, and this is again just my opinion. You don't. No one has told me this. It's not official, but you don't want controversy when you're trying to stay relevant in a world of music. So I think that's why with the sax and stuff, we can argue that all day and night that they shouldn't have done that, just like maybe Giles shouldn't have done with "I Am the Walrus" at the end.
Yeah.
That's different. When it comes to the N word, we all know about it, but do you want right now the younger kids are reading about John, and they're hearing about how he was abusive to Cynthia, and he was a terrible father to Julian, and you don't want any other controversy marring or his legacy. And I think if you put out that word on the box set, you have to explain it. And it's not easily explained today as it was back in 72 or 1, whenever it was. So I understand why they didn't do it. I also understand, your feelings that you needed to, because John's gone, and he would have probably said, do it, put it on. But Sean did say last night to someone, I overheard this, he said that, his dad flip-flopped a lot. One day he would do this, and then the next day he'd say, no, don't do that. So you don't know, and I don't know, and Sean doesn't know how exactly John would have felt. So he took the easy way out, so to speak, the day tripper, easy way out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't do it. And we can't fault him for that, because we'll never know what the real, feeling was. And maybe Yoko gave him some guidance. Because we did ask, I did ask about Yoko. First of all, let me tell you right now, Sean is one of the nicest guys I think I've met in the Beatle world. He has a reputation because he never smiles in pictures. And he didn't last night, but he smiled a lot when we talked to him. So, and again, we talked to him very casually last night. It wasn't like a formal, hey, showing you with mics and everything. I just got next to him when he was hanging out by himself at some point, and I went up to him and just said, how's your mom? So we were talking, and, he did say, thank goodness his mom is good, doing well. She's upstate, because, even in New York City, if she's down here, people mean well, but, they still bother her. And when I say bother, she's 92 and frail.
Yes.
She's slowing down, he said,
Yeah.
but she's still with it. And she heard the album, she heard the box, and she loved it.
Oh,
So we can only. I did ask him that. So Sean was very approachable last night. He stayed the whole time. There was a Mind Games event last year or so where he only stayed for a little bit, but. They threw him a party last night. They gave him a cake, which he didn't eat it because he doesn't eat cake. But so he was very approachable, really super nice.
hmm.
He has a reputation of being not reputation, but people often think that he's a little difficult because he does all these changes to the albums and this and that. He really was the opposite of what I thought he was going to be last night, and he stayed till the very end. And he was really, really approachable. He took pictures with everybody. He talked to people. He was really sweet, just a really good guy. And he was funny too. He did say last night when we threw him, not when we threw him, when they gave him the cake. We were watching the audio and video in the room. And he did make it a point to say, "Listen, for 2 more days, I'm still in my 40s." So he was laughing with everybody. He was just super nice. His girlfriend Charlotte was equally as nice and approachable, going up to everybody and taking pictures. So, in terms of Sean himself, it was a wonderful experience meeting him. Finally, I didn't get to meet him at the Mind Games event, so. Is the Lennon legacy in good hands? Yes. Is it in the hands that we may want? Maybe not. But it's not up to us to decide. It's obviously going to stay in Sean's hands.
Yeah.
And Sean is going to make decisions. It's going to be. They did say they were working on Walls and Bridges as we were speaking last night.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be very interesting because May Pang is all over that.
Yes, she is.
Is
Yeah.
is Sean going to leave it as such? Or is he going to do what Yoko did about 15, 20 years ago, where she took out May's,
Yeah.
voice on Number 9 Dream and put her own in?
Yep.
I think they're going to leave it. If you had to ask me, I had heard through the grapevine that there's no ill will between Sean and May. So, look, it's been so many years. That's why I get so pissed at everybody who keep wearing stupid shirts that say "Still pissed at Yoko." I mean, my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
she didn't break them up 55 years ago, and
Right.
she's not breaking them up now, and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
92, and you know what? John loved her, and
Yep.
that's all that matters.
That's right.
And I defend her by saying that she's had more number one hits on the Billboard charts than all the solo Beatles combined for the past 40 years. Yes, they're dance hits, but Paul considers the number one album on the vinyl charts of number one. So if that's the case, then she's had more number ones than all of them combined. So
Yeah. Yeah.
good on her. She's again 92. She's not hurting
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
And I must tell you, watching her, and I'm going to say it, watching her wail in the videos and it didn't offend me as much. Again, the mix was different. And John, what I was started to mention before, because you're seeing the video so clear, there are so many loving little looks between John and Yoko.
Yeah.
When Yoko's singing, when John's singing, he's looking at her, and you didn't notice it before in the Live in New York City videos, and now you do. So you know what? They loved each other. Who cares anymore? It's 55 years, for God's sake.
Yeah. Good point. Very good points. Thanks very much for sharing all that, Mitch.
No
Tom,
problem.
Tom, you want to jump in?
Yeah, when Brooke gets passionate, which is
Yeah, of
great
course.
to see.
We all are.
Yeah. It's. I just said, look, this is. I mean, we're coming into a reoccurring theme. Is that this merchandise really isn't for us? It's for a younger generation,
Right.
And the beauty of these Beatle podcasts that we're experiencing is that there are younger voices. And I told Brooke, I said, oh my God, they don't know anything about London Town. They're talking about, like, they're not saying correct things on this podcast. It's right.
That's a problem too, though.
Yeah.
And I was like, but it's not for me to define. It's just that it is what it is. And when algorithms come around, they're not looking for that 2003 mega mix. They're looking for the current mix, and that's what you're going to get. And I always drive him crazy. I said, when you're in a grocery store, you're going to hear the new version of the Beatles, is because it's going to sound new. It's going to be more current sounding than something that came out in 1968. So he goes, well, I don't want to hear the new one in the grocery store. So that's what's going to happen. It's going to be that elevator, grocery store, casino. It's just going to sound more modern, and it's designed for more people.
You're right, but there's a catch-22 there, because they'll sound fresh and sound great, but in the future, when all of us are gone and the younger people are taking over, they're only going to know the "I Am the Walrus" with the ending that we just heard.
Yeah.
And that's going to become the quote ultimate mix that Sean keeps stating. So is it the ultimate mix? No. Is it an alternate mix? Yes. But I think, look, everything will be out there in the future as long as everything's still in print. So you can, as long as we keep doing what we're doing and we impress upon any younger people we come in contact with, like my kids or whomever, they know what the deal is. We can't control the future. As long as the Beatles are being played when we're gone, that's fine with me. The one thing that bothers me now is the whole AI. I don't want anybody thinking, so many people are falling for the AI crap that's out there, and I keep posting, Paul McCartney's playing right-handed to a kid in a hospital bed.
Yes.
Or Paul and Ringo are going to be doing a new world tour to honor George and John, and Ringo still has his hair like from 4 years ago.
Yes.
I'm like, and please, people, Paul just rescued 40 dogs. And the picture, the second picture in that thing didn't even look like Paul. Yesterday, I saw 3 videos of John and George singing at the Mosaic at Central Park, and it's John from '69 and George from '68. It's like, stop. That stuff that bothers me, because you never know. Like, when we're gone, if someone creates a Beatles song in AI, that might be thought of as a real song, and it could stink or it could be great, but it's not true. So that stuff really bothers me a little bit.
No, I'm completely with you. I mean, how many times do I have to see Paul McCartney lying in a hospital bed?
And the same article has Paul Simon, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan in the same bed. But and people don't see that, and I keep saying, or a few weeks ago or a month ago, they had the Time magazine was honoring Paul McCartney. Yes, look on any other page, and Time magazine was honoring, Sparks, the group Sparks. It's like, wait, Time magazine is not honoring Sparks. Bruce Springsteen, everybody was being honored by, and the pictures don't even look like them half the time. And people are going, oh my God, this is such a great honor. Stop. You have to think a minute. That's not the real truth of the world.
But that's the big problem right now, Mitch, because
I know.
And me and Tom, we can see the difference between real and artificial. Okay, but a lot of people are looking at this stuff on Facebook or these postings, and they're going, oh my God, I hope he's going to be all right.
I know. Ringo was in the hospital too.
The problem is that a lot of people are believing the artificial intelligence.
Yes.
That's the problem.
It is a problem. And
a little too above us. Nothing we can do about that. That's going on all over the place. The one thing about this, we were talking about the box set sometime in New York City, is that I think I look at it as a newspaper. Even the album cover looked like a newspaper. It's like, this is what was going on in 1971, 72. We're going to write about it, blank. And like a newspaper, you read some articles, you skip the other ones, but it's a harsh album, and the Elephant's memory is terrible in it. We have to
they are.
But I mean that's.
Let me stop you right there for a second. They have been disparaged by a lot of people, and sometimes rightly so. When you hear them, when you see them in the new mix of the concert footage, especially, and on the new mixes of the album, they're not as bad as everybody says. They really did compliment John and Yoko well, especially the concert. The mixes of the concert in the past have been so horrible, and now when you hear them, it really, no, I'm not kidding. It really gave me a different respect for their band.
Well, I believe the documentary, the one-to-one that came out, which was wonderful, sets the tone for some time in New York City and say, okay, so this documentary is like the whirlwind that they were in New York, with all the Abby Hoffmans and all the
Yes.
stuff that's going on.
Jerry Rubens and
Created this album. So it was like, okay, explain to people why this album exists and why it's so dated at the same time. It's like, because, these are all things that have passed and a long time ago.
Well, and you could, my favorite line is, you could put a tuxedo on a goat, it's still a goat.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes that's true with Sometime in New York City. It sounds amazing, but it's still a crappy album. Let's face it. It's still not something I'm going to ever go back to. Right. If I do and I have the new mixes, it sounds better, but tuxedo on a goat.
Well, yeah, you could put pig on a lipstick. I'm sorry, you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. It's the same.
Still a pig, exactly.
Yeah. It was my last John Lennon album that I bought, and as financially, like money out of my pocket, I felt like it wasn't good. Like I didn't get my money's worth on this album because it was so expensive.
Well, John even said in 1980 that he was, or 79, that he was a phony radical, and I think this is a piece of a piece in time. That's how they were thinking at the time. Yeah. And so does it deserve the deluxe treatment? Yes, it's still part of his catalog. I'm glad they put it as a box set with the 1-to-1, and because it should have come out before Mind Games and all that. But I think they were really struggling with the N-word song, so they didn't do it. And now they came up with a creative way to still give you that period of time, which they said last night. This is more not a definitive box set. It's the box set of a period of time in their lives. Yeah. So you get a whole bunch of stuff that they did at that time. You're getting all the home demos in the last disc and of oldies and stuff. And so I give them a lot of kudos for what they attempted to do and they've done. And it sounds wonderful. Whether you go out and buy it or not, or like it or not, hey, that's up to the public. But at least they're putting it out there, and I'm glad at least they're putting something out there rather than nothing, because we would complain either way.
Mm-hmm. We want to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think it would be safe to say that, okay, so there's the versions that I grew up with when the Beatles were together and when they were releasing them when they first came out. Okay, that's my context, right? That's what I love. It's part of my teenage years and growing up with the Beatles.
It's in your DNA.
Yes, it's in my DNA, just like you with the Beatletunes. Okay, it's very similar. Okay,
yes.
and that's real for us. But as Tom points out, the younger generations now, they're going to hear different remixes. They're going to hear different versions of the songs that are not what I grew up with and not what I heard. And I'm going to have an opinion, as everybody does, that what, I prefer what I grew up with. That's for me. But for the younger generations, if they hear something, a different mix that Charles Martin did, or that or whoever did the remixes on it, Peter Jackson or whoever it might be, then that may become their norm or their reference point. And then if they choose and say, hey, you know what, Brooke, I don't like the versions that you heard and when the Beatles released them in 65 and 66 or 64 and 67, I prefer what's going on now, and I'm hearing these new mixes, and I'm going to say, God bless you.
Right.
If you
as long as you're listening to Beatle music, that's fine.
If you prefer those, more than the originals, enjoy them.
I agree.
I just want to make it clear that I'm not pissed off at the people that love the new stuff. Right. It's just that it's different, and there's choices to be made now, and you can either choose the originals or you can choose this remix, that remaster, the master of the remaster. It's up to you.
But you know what? They're doing it because also, you gotta look at it as they're streaming now, different ways to listen to music. So, kids will never know what it is to flip an album. I mean, now vinyl's coming back, but But you know what? With streaming, you have to make it sound fresh, and that's what Giles is attempting to do, and Sean, and whoever else, Danny, and whoever else is curating the estates or the Beatles stuff. They're trying to make it sound fresh. So whether we like it or not, as long as people are still listening to Beatle music, it's fine.
Yeah,
I was listening to Spotify, and the Beatles channel is at times it's obviously not, that channel's not for me, because I'm going like, okay, they were doing like a 2 for Tuesday, and they were like, I was like, oh my God, I can't take this, and just everything's out of context for me.
Yes.
And also then I'm like, oh, they're picking out the most obvious songs. You're getting I'm getting Hey Jude like 3 or 4 times a day on Spotify on different channels. And I'm like, you know what? They're burning out the hits. And I don't find this channel to be discovery. I'm not learning anything from it, and I'm just finding it just a collage of Beatledom that it hurts. It hurts to listen.
It hurts to us, but again, if you're in a car and you're on Sirius XM and you're listening to the Beatles channel 18, there are some shows that are Discovery, which is nice. But it's really basically just the same as when we were kids listening on the radio, to AM radio, where you'd hear Led Zeppelin and then Carole King. I mean, my God. But again, it's not for us. It's for the general mass fan, not the hardcore fan, who just want to hear Beatles songs. They don't care that, this is the flip side of that. They don't care. They don't know flip sides. I mean, unless you have a 45, you have no idea that My Name was the flip side of Let It Be. So if they're just hearing it, it's out of context, yes. But it's still, again, it's Beatle music, and it's getting out there to a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the movie Yesterday, when that movie came out, a lot of people said, well, it's Beatles songs. There's Beatles songs in the movie, bro. I love that movie because I can hear Beatles songs. And and I'm about ready to shoot myself, when I saw that movie and when I listened to that. Okay, but it's the same point that you're talking about, Mitch. It's that, well, some people say, well, they just want to hear Beatle music. They don't really care if the sax is in or the sax is out or the piano's high in the mix or the piano's low in the mix. That's what's going on. And it
makes them happy if a little kid hears Yellow Submarine and they go singing Yellow Submarine to their classmates, and those kids then go singing Yellow Submarine and they discover Beatles. I don't give a damn that I may not love Yellow Submarine anymore. I don't. You know what? Because it's like the old Weller Balsam commercial where and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. You know what? As long as that little kid is going and saying, I just heard Beatles, and then telling their kids, and it spreads around, fine with me. I don't care about the context. I care that people are still going to listen to the Beatles 100 years from now, whether it's our mix, their mix, your mix, the new mixes that might come out when we're all gone. Who the hell knows? So I'm just happy.
We're at the 4-minute mark left. Mitch, I look at your podcast. This is the gold standard. Like, you guys have been around for 16 years, right?
Yeah.
What kind of viewership? I mean, is something you guys even track anymore?
We don't track it anymore. You know what? We have a lot of viewers. We have a lot of listeners. Mm-hmm. We started on YouTube during COVID because we couldn't get to the studio anymore. So we always like to be in the same studio and record our audio. We never had video because we always say we have faces for radio. But when COVID came and we couldn't get to the studio, we did Zoom. And now we do Zoom and we pull the audio from the Zoom, which makes it a lot easier. Yeah. We haven't recorded as much as we wanted to because as we get older, our family priorities, our health issues, we just had a serious health issue with one of our co-hosts. Things happen. Life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans, as John said. Yeah. And as we get older, my in-laws just had issues. I had some issues. We all do. And honestly, we're not monetizing because we don't want to make you pay to hear us. We just do it for the love of the Beatles. We do. Yeah. And if we could spread some joy whenever we record, that's all we care about. So, we have a lot of people who listen and watch, and we are very grateful for that. And we're going to keep doing it. I mean, even if we're not recording, I keep our page really filled with a lot of stuff. I mean, I just put today a contest to win the Power to the People swag bag, because I took an extra one last night at the event, which is kind of cool. So, we just want to keep the Beatles in people's minds. We want to correct them when they come up with the wrong stuff, like AI and stuff like that. Or if someone doesn't know that, Lawrence Juber is in Wings, if you're a young kid, we want to make sure they at least do it right. And we're not always right, but we've been told, believe me, especially from my wife. But, we love just keeping that legacy going, and any opportunity we have to do that, we appreciate.
Beautiful. Very well put, Mitch. Thank you for that.
Good job.
Yeah.
2 minutes left.
Okay, well, this has been a very exciting version of Come Together. Absolutely. Mitch, is there anything you'd like to say as we wrap up?
If I could promote the Fab Four Free for All, go look us up on YouTube, on every podcast streaming service. Check out our Facebook page, because I just saved a bunch of people a lot of money on the box set for Power to the People. I found an error that Walmart posted. They had the 12-disc box for $81. Ooh. So at least 150 people bought it, and so I've saved them over $22,000. I do get a lot of insight to things. We have our insiders. So check out our Facebook page. Even if you don't listen to our show, I update content a lot. And we have a lot of lively discussions, so it's a lot of fun.
Terrific. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much, Mitch, for joining us. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
With your pursuits and with your health and everything else.
Thank you.
And we are the torch bearers, and Mitch and Tom and Brooke and many, 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 many other people carry the torch. Absolutely. Because we love the Beatles, and we always will. So thanks again for joining us today on Come Together. I'm your host, Brooke Halpin, and Tom Gauker. Thank you for joining us, Tom. And Mitch, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you next time, right here on Come Together.